So welcome to the next video in this series. Hopefully by now, if you were not familiar, you have already at least reviewed the videos of the ETC training for things like patching and writing queues and bringing up levels and things like that. If not, you can always go back and do that at any time. This video is designed to help you show setup of the ETC Nomad software so that it works in views like your Ion. If you haven't already downloaded the ETC Nomad software and installed it on your computer, hit pause and do that now because everything from here on forward, you'll need it. Don't worry, I'll wait. Oh, you got it. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to full screen here and we're going to get you set up. So I have gone to full screen here so that I can show you how to set up the Nomad software. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. For the first time when you open this, you're actually going to see this screen, not the one that I just opened up to. We are going to select EOS, not Element, for ETC Nomad, because as I stated before, the Ion is part of the EOS family. The Element is actually the more basic of the console, so it doesn't have some of the capacities that the Ion has. So once we select EOS on the Nomad, we're going to click offline. There are options for running an ETC Nomad with a relay that allows you to actually program lights with it without a console, but we're not doing that. We're just simply going to go offline. It's going to open up and you're going to see what looks like a channel display. I'm going to give you just a couple of pointers that are going to lay out this software for you so that you can actually use it like the light board. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up here to the displays because we only have one display. I'm going to click on the display. This right here are options for different ways that you can set up your screen. For the purposes of this, I want you to click 4 frames. Now what you see is you have 4 different places with information available. This one up here is still the live tracking version of what lights are on or off. Over here, I'm going to select virtual keyboard. This one is key because you do not have the actual console itself. You're going to need access to those physical buttons because your keyboard does not have buttons like go to queue. So this is the virtual keyboard and it represents the hard buttons that are on your actual light board. Then down here, I'm going to suggest that you set a queues tab. And then for the purposes of getting set up and learning about this console, I'm going to select patch for my other one. What this now has done is it's given me the ability to see as if I have the board in front of me. So a couple of things to know about the offline editor while you're doing it. You can still use your keyboard for commands, like for instance, here I have selected the patch area. I can still use my numeric keypads, listen, to use the numbers, but since I don't have buttons like at on my computer, I have to physically click at, and then I would punch in my next number. Enter still works because, well, it's enter. I also want to point out right here that this says blind. When the time comes for writing your cues, you're not going to want it to be in blind mode. It doesn't actually matter because you don't have the console in front of you and it's not actually sending any information out. But in order to actually know what's going on at any given time, it is valuable to stay in live mode. And you can see right there it says live rather than blind. So the next thing that I want to point out is that just like any computer software, you have access to make changes and things like that. A key to what you're doing here, and it's one of the steps in the assignment when you see it, is that you're going to have to program a basic show and then save that show. In order to save that show, you go down here to your browser. which is just like any computer. You've got a file, you've got a save, and you have a save as. Conversely, you also have an open. For instance, I have saved on my desktop, I've got a basic show already started. But when you go to save, you'll do the same thing. Save as, and then in my particular, inside my desktop and my Ion show, what I would do is I would decide that this is where I want to save. I hit enter. Yes, I want to save. I get to type the name of my show. And I used my keyboard if you couldn't hear it clicking, and then I hit enter. It saves all of the information, and now I have this show saved. As with any file in any software, save regularly in case something goes wrong. So disclosure time, I'm not a lighting designer. I'm not at all familiar with the Ion lighting console. I have a background in some of the older desks back before they were computer consoles like the Expression and the Express. And I forced myself to learn a fair share of stuff with the Congo because the Congo Junior was the console that I've most recently had access to. So I'm learning all of this as we go as well. I'm heavily leaning on a couple of friends of mine who are lighting designers who own this console already to help me through the process. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you one last thing, and that is that the software actually has a really useful help function. So right here on the virtual keypad, you'll see there's a help button. If you press and hold, it goes green. Once you've done that, if you click on any other of the hard buttons, like for instance, record, it actually brings up a guideline here for what the record button does. Now, this doesn't work on every single button. For instance, if I click and hold help and then I hit the 6, it doesn't do anything because it just jumps to telling me that I want to program channel 6. But for some of these other buttons, it can be very, very useful. Bear in mind that in order to access this function, you do have to have the live function active. You can't be in patch and have it work. So I'm going to leave it at that. Now you have your software all set up and is plenty of time to play. Once you think you've familiarized yourself with some basic principles of using it, you can jump ahead to the assignment, which you will find also in the description.